Hey guys, Thomas the Saluging here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Pet Graveyard. Not to be confused with Pet Cemetery, which I will also be reviewing. But hey, sometimes you find one of those, knockoff movies and you just say, hey, I want to check that out. And I did. And you know what? It wasn't bad. It was okay. So, let's get into it. So this movie starts with a prompt of some writing and happening 3 years ago. We see this woman calling out, her name is Nikki, and she's calling out for help for this other woman. As the other person in her car is this injured man. And while he's injured, he ends up in this void space. This is the best description I can give it. And in the process, the woman appears and or keeps saying that quote unquote him. So the other woman calls up to help to an ambulance, and Nikki's crying out for help. And some zooms happen of the dark presence, and this hooded figure in this mask stabs Nikki. She ends up waking up in this void space, and then dying in the void space. Cut to her dying in the real space. Anyway, we cut to present day, where we see this young girl nursing, and she's falling behind and stuff of that nature. And her brother is this daredevilish character. She is Lily, and he is, not Francis, Jeff. So Lily and Jeff. And she's giving him grief to try a bit harder in life. And she chills in her bed for a bit, and she eventually overhears her brother talking to some. So she heads over. The brother is pulled away, and the other people talk about how they had lost people and stuff. So he says he wants to do something with these people in order to get views. I assume that he has his own website and does not upload to YouTube, because I know if he uploaded what we see onto YouTube, he would probably be terminated permanently. Next scene, they proceed to try to kill themselves. I'm not joking. But they do this in a very specified area, which is in a graveyard. I suppose a pet graveyard, if anything else. And this process they learn about is called brinking. So Jeff tells the nurse, Lily, to give them 3 minutes after being suffocated to death, pull this off, and they begin their ritual. They start with this woman. I wrote her name later on. Her name is Zara, and then we have the other guy, this black guy named Francis. So Zara, while in this void space when she dies, meets her 10-year-old brother named Isaac, and he kind of goes on about, like, not recognizing her because the passage of time. And Francis goes next to see his girlfriend, Amy, in this void space, and Jeff meets his and Lily's mom as he enters this void space. So we see that these figures appear after some time, Isaac, Amy, and the mother. And at first things are seeming pretty all nice and whatnot. Uh-oh. It's giving me... My notes are giving me grief. I do apologize. So, after that, after some time, the dead people start to shift over and say, "You should stay here with me." And it kind of trickles over to the other characters as well. There's blood involved, and the masked figure appeared for some of them. Francis ends up making out with Amy a bit, and then she goes in for the vampire move, the neck move. So, three of them get woken up due to Lily and her one of those breathing things. I forget what they're called. And the two, or mainly Zara, is trying to explain what's going on, what happened. Jeff doesn't believe it. And this cat, the one you see on the poster, does appear in Jeff's room when they head back, and vanishes as he turns on the light. So Lily talks about their mom as they talk some more. We cut over to Francis as he works over at this arcade and he starts to hear these noises. So he's looking about and he also sees a cat. We then cut to Zara and her father. And she sees Isaac appear, but when she tries to point him out, the father, of course, does not see him. And in the process, the figure turns into the mask, or Isaac turns into the masked figure that it has various names. I think it has various names in the movie, but I think the one they primarily used was the Reaper, so I would just say the Reaper from this point forward, since that is the name, one of the names I clearly heard. So anyways, after those encounters, the four of them meet up and talk, and Zara wants to now stay at Lily's place. And as she's sleeping later on, we see that something is moving in her sheets, but there's nothing actually there. We see that there's a figure in the window, and then we see it is the cat, and she proceeds to follow it. She runs some water, and then is like trying to take a shower to like calm her nerves. Meanwhile, Lily reads more about this process called bringing, and learns about this skull that is apparently the bad guy's, or the Reaper's, weakness. Meanwhile, Zara deals with Isaac, and then Isaac, changes into the Reaper, and then, grabs her. And Lily gets up rather slowly. It's almost as if time is again. She starts knocking on the door, calling out to Zara, but she can't open the door. And then the brother tries, and he also can't open the door. And she proceeds to get choked out, brought into the afterlife, and then, yeah, she did. So we cut to Francis hearing more voices, and then, meanwhile that's going on, Lily starts talking about the past brinking events and how all those ended poorly. And we cut back to Francis, who's still freaking out and seeing Amy at the arcade, and then her doing her little bit. So Lily later on talks to the worker at the start of the movie, and Amy, I think her name is Amy, the one that used to work there, mentions, as I mentioned, the souls belonging to the Reaper and all that stuff. So Francis turns to see the Reaper meanwhile, and he gets smashed down and then gets beaten down to death. Or almost beaten down to death. He manages to get a call into Jeff, trying to warn him as best he can before getting taken down. And Francis believes he is next. Jeff thinks he's next. And he starts to see the cat as they move into the graveyard where they started their adventure. So Lily wants to try to do the brinking process in order to stop this process from happening furthermore. And it kind of begs the question of why not have Francis just go back, but whatever. She ends up going instead. So she ends up seeing both Zara and Francis there. And she sees her own mom, and she's like, no, you're not my mom, stuff like that. Meanwhile, Jeff is seeing the cat appear, and then the Reaper appears, moving rather slowly. She's trying to avoid it, while also protecting her sister, holding back the Reaper. Meanwhile, the fake mom is trying to continue to mock Lily, and the Reaper ends up hitting Jeff down a bit, but doesn't end up killing him, or he kind of does, I suppose. Anyway, the mom changes, trying to get her to stop, as Lily does end up grabbing the skull, and she does end up eventually smashing it. So she comes back out of the void, and then she sees, but before she leaves, she sees Jeff was there, and then when she wakes up, she sees that he is temporarily dead. But she manages, to get him back. And that was the pet graveyard as they make their way out. As I said, I think this was different enough from Pet Sematary to look into and review. This still technically deals with death in some sort of capacity, and the sort of ether between, or world between, or whatever you want to call it. The acting was okay. The pacing toward the end was a little wonky, with the Reaper being all super slower than it seemed normal, but whatever. But yeah, your pretty typical horror movie. I think this movie could have been called something else, or just Graveyard something or other, but whatever. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It was okay. I think there could have been obviously some improvements here and there, but overall, not bad. And that's my review of Pet Graveyard. And if you enjoyed my review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out the links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.